Baldur's Gate 3 lets you romance many of its lovable companion characters, but only one or two at a time. What if you've got room in your heart and bed for more than that? I'm going to show you how wild things can get when you trick the game into ignoring that lover limit. And all of it without needing any mods. Companion romance is split into two stages: dating, which starts in Act 1, and partnered, which starts in Act 2. We're gonna break both halves of that system, so let's begin in Act 1. The intended limit for dating is 2 companions. Once you're double dating, the other characters will turn you down if you try to add them to the mix. But if you make just the right moves in the right order, you can date all the companions at once. Except Karlach.
It isn't fair.
Aw, hang in there, Mama K. There's a whole section of the video all about you later.
Yes!
All the setup for this companion gang banquet needs to be done before the tiefling party, so don't finish off the goblin leaders until you've got everything ready to go. Although you can put off the tiefling party as long as you want by long resting in any camp other than the main one in the wilderness. Okay, so what is the setup? First, the simple ones. For Shadowheart, you need at least 40 approval. Will just needs 10 approval, he's easy to please. You'll need 20 approval with Astarion, but if you go over 40, and let him drink your blood at night, he'll already try to get you in the sack the next time you talk to him. So don't pick this one line or you'll trigger his night scene ahead of schedule and screw up the whole plan, along with Astarion. You need at least 20 approval with Lae'zel, but you also gotta prove you're worth her time by defeating the Owlbear, or the ogres in the Blighted Village, or the Spider Matriarch, or the Hag. If you do that while Lae'zel is in the party with you, she'll immediately get hot and bothered. But if you talk to her right now, you'll also ruin the setup. So just fast travel anywhere and she'll cool off, but she'll still have this pickup line waiting until the right moment. Finally, Gale takes the most work to get set up. You need to already know about his magic shoes addiction and have at least 36 approval. Not 35, 36. With that covered, long rest until you see Gale fondling an illusion of Mystra in camp at night. Just triggering this is all you need to do, so you can ignore him and go to sleep if you want. However, if you do talk to Gale and let him teach you about magic, it's important to not pick either of these top 2 romantic lines or you'll start dating him out of order. So just choose the neutral, friendly option, as tempting as those other 2 might be. Now that all the prep work is done, you're about to have a very eventful day. We gotta start by talking to Shadowheart, since she's the pickiest and doesn't want to truly connect if you're dating even one other person already. Pick that line and you'll make a date for some night, but she's gonna be waiting for a while. After that, turn around to Lae'zel and finally tell her that she's been looking at you differently to get her engine running. As soon as you agree to spend the night with her later, you're already dating her, making Lae'zel the first name in your diary. With those 2 ladies on the hook, it's time to start the tiefling party and add the gentleman to the mix. It's still important to get the order just right, so ignore Astarion's cry for attention and start with Will, since he won't be interested if you're already double dating or if you've picked a partner for the evening. As long as you don't intentionally friendzone him or walk away, you'll start dating him even if you don't try to kiss him. Astarion is next, and some of his dialogue is blocked now that you're dating both Lae'zel and Will. However, you can still pick him as your partner for the night as long as you don't choose this line or leave. We'll be seeing plenty more of Astarion soon, but for now, just agree to spend the night with him later. Finally, let's chat up Gale. If you hadn't already unlocked his spell teaching scene earlier, he wouldn't have much to say to you right now.
The Carside Weave.
But his replacement conversation about Tara lets you start dating him no matter how many other companions you're romantically involved with. Though you must pick this dialogue option at this point to start a relationship with him. After that, a few different conversation routes will work, but just pick option 3 to make it easy. Now you're all set for the evening. Karlach and Shadowheart will both be a bit disappointed that you're going to spend the night with Astarion, though it sounds like Lae'zel plans to take care of herself.
Soon. When you rest, I will come.
When you go to bed, you'll see many tempting choices, but you gotta pick Astarion here to begin dating him. During his scene, just stay away from the options at the bottom and you'll be fine. By morning, you'll be dating Lae'zel, Will, Gale, and Astarion, but we've still got one more person to add to our love life. You'll need to long rest some more until Shadowheart finally shows up to share a bottle of wine.
Assuming you haven't changed your mind, of course.
Well, I did start dating 4 other people since you asked me out, but I'm still interested. As long as you play it smooth with Shadowheart and reach the end of the night, you'll start dating her, even if you choose not to kiss her for whatever reason. The next morning, your companions will all start gossiping with each other about their mutual romance with you.
As someone I don't know if I've thrown abuse scrap of it left for you.
Including Shadowheart asking Lae'zel about the night you two spent together, even though you haven't even had a chance to make your move on her yet. And that still may take a while longer, since you've also got to keep Astarion satisfied in the meantime. But long rest enough, and you'll finally be able to finish a certain speed run.
I've come to sate you and be sated.
Speaking of Shadowheart and Lae'zel, when they start fighting for your affections at night, you'll obviously need to resolve the situation peacefully so that you don't lose your Gith girlfriend or your Goth girlfriend. When you're ready, escort your cavalcade of bows and booze into Act 2, where things will really go off the rails. As soon as you reach the Shadow-Cursed lands, it won't be long before your companions are lining up for a chance to take things to the next level. In fact, just stepping inside Last Light Inn will queue up both Will and Lae'zel's partnering scenes in camp at night, one at a time, as well as unlocking this conversation.
Thou hast now a bosom companion. Take care that thou art not distracted on thy quest.
I ain't even got enough bosoms to go around, Bone Man. Entering Moonrise Towers is another method to trigger Will and Lae'zel's scenes, as well as the only way for Gale. And you can cue Astarion's partnering scene by talking to Araj with Astarion in the party, though the conversation you have with him at night will change quite a bit based on if you make him bite her or not. And while we're in here, we could also go flirt a bit with Zarel.
She parts the folds of your again, touching your wants and hopes, tasting them.
Good luck, I'm behind 5 lovers.
I have 17 husbands scattered across the coast shores.
Alright, you win. If you queue up all 4 of those night scenes at once, then Astarion's will be the first one you see. If you didn't force him to bite Araj, then just hear him out and pick this line to make him your first, but far from last, partner. On the other hand, if you did make him bite Araj, well, then you gotta say all this. Either way, now that you are officially partnered with Astarion, everyone else will immediately have something to say about it. But if you talk to any of those companions, you'll be forced to end your new partnership if you want to continue dating them, which is exactly what we're gonna do. This even lets you break up with your partner via tadpole text message instead of needing to do it face to face. You can pick any of the companions you're dating to do this, but don't choose Lae'zel while you're partnered with Astarion, or you'll run into a bug that's exclusive to that particular pair. This top option is meant to end your relationship with Astarion while continuing to date Lae'zel, and for any other companion, it would. But watch what happens when I pick that choice. This is unedited. See, you just instantly broke up with Astarion, but you're still stuck in the conversation, with both of these other options also ending your fling with Lae'zel. Instead, let's go talk to Shadowheart, since we've got long-term plans for her anyway. We've had our fun with Astarion, so go ahead and tell Shadowheart that she's the one you really want, and you'll end your partnership with the vampire spawn, while continuing to date the 4 other companions. Though if you really want to rub it in, you can go talk to Astarion about it afterward.
Is it true? You've decided to replace me?
Sorry, Astarion, but I had to make a choice, and I chose everyone else in camp. With Astarion kicked to the curb, the next suitor that will shoot his shot is Will, dancing like no one's watching. You know, Will, Astarion is an elf. He's not actually asleep back there. Just dance the night away and give Will a smooch to take your relationship to the next level, very briefly. Gale's last night alive will be the next romantic evening in the queue, but if you're already partnered with someone else when it starts, you'll get the platonic version of the scene instead. So if you want to get things going with Gale either in bed or in the sky, you need to break up with Will before you talk to Gale's spectral voice. And what better way to do that than to go tell Shadowheart that she's the one you really want, again. Spend the night with Gale, take a tour of his home in Waterdeep, and accept his love right in the astral plane. But don't mention that you plan to ditch him tomorrow morning. Lae'zel is the last on the nighttime waiting list, but just like Will, she won't show up to make her move as long as you're still partnered with someone else. So you can keep your romance with Gale going until late into Act 2 if you want, as long as you end things with him while you still have enough time left to long rest before the Shadowfell. When the time comes, how are you going to break up with Gale? Go talk to Shadowheart and tell her that she's still the one you really want. And while you're already talking to her, make sure you use this chance to invite Shadowheart into the party if she isn't already part of the group. You're going to need her with you in the Shadowfell, but if you try to tell her to join up while you're still partnered with someone else, she'll always want to talk about that first, even when you don't want to break up with anyone. With Gale off crying in the corner, just settle in for the night and Lae'zel will show up and interrupt your nap. As soon as you agree to duel her, you're already partnered. Even if you verbally abuse her and walk away right after the fight, you still won't end the relationship. I picked Lae'zel as the final partner just to show the priority order, but you could choose any of those other companions we already dumped to be your real partner. Though remember, as soon as you've settled on your choice, you can't talk to any other companion you're dating without ending one of the relationships. Why does that matter if you've already picked a partner? And why did I say final partner when we're still dating Shadowheart? I'm gonna answer both of those questions soon. But before that, we gotta take a quick detour to talk about Minthara. The way her romance works is really weird, beginning as soon as you hit 31 approval with her, which you could technically reach in the middle of Act 2, but it's much more likely to happen after you've defeated Ketheric and talked to Minthara on the throne. Once she's back in camp, if you let her poke around inside your head and welcome her advances, you'll not only start dating her, but immediately end any other partnership. And unlike all the other companions, you can't break up with Minthara through dialogue. Once she has you in her web, there's no escape. Well, unless you spend the night with Mizora, but we'll get to that later. Halsin doesn't have a dating stage, but we still want to keep him warmed up for later, so if you didn't already flirt with him in Act 1, you gotta do it sometime in Act 2. Of course, you also need to finish his quest to lift the Shadow Curse. And keep in mind, you'll need to do that as well as finish all other business in Act 2 without ever talking to Shadowheart, because her noticing you seem happier of late will take priority over almost anything else until you free the Night Song and leave the Shadowfell. When you do, it's time for us to break the game's rules of love even more. You see, when you started your serious relationship with Lae'zel, both of these two things were set. To put it very simply, this is who the game thinks your partner is, and this is who the characters think your partner is. The top one can never have more than one companion, but that bottom one doesn't have a limit. It's just that every other character has blocks in place to prevent you from setting that flag while you're still partnered with someone else. But not Shadowheart. Since you're still dating her at this point, you can use the normal dialogue line available here to take your relationship to the next level. The game knows your real partner is still Lae'zel, but everyone else in Faerun now thinks you're going steady with both her and Shadowheart. And that's not the only thing that's gone haywire by doing this trick. After Nightsong has told Shadowheart all about her folks and handed over a shiny new toothpick, if you go and talk to Shadowheart, this line will pop up. Whoops, you're not supposed to see any text that has those bars on the side. The line only appears when you reach that post-Shadowfell dialogue while dating Shadowheart, but also partnered with someone else. And it still shows up now even though you're already pretend partnered with her. Picking that line will lead to the same conversation you already used to hook up with Shadowheart back then, which means that you can break up with her right now, then use that dialogue option to immediately rekindle your relationship, making Shadowheart act like you're both formerly lovers and currently lovers.
You know, I didn't realize it was possible to be so cordial with a former flame. I suppose I'm lucky. Did you want something?
If you don't choose that broken dialogue line yet, it will remain available all the way up until you leave camp to walk into Rivington and start Act 3. And to really drive home how buggy that line is, if you wait until that point to finally select it and say you want to make things serious with Shadowheart, even though you already did, it will still end with her saying this.
She took flight to hunt down Ketheric Thorm. All I can do is help hasten his demise, and hope that answers soon follow.
Once you get into Act 3, only your real partner will get their romantic finale scene. In this case, Lae'zel's sunset, but it would be the same for any of the other characters. Sadly, since Shadowheart is just your side piece, she won't make sandcastles with you. It's also your real partner that will show up in the morning to complain if you spend the night with Mizora. And several of the companions will break up with you at this point regardless of what you say to them, Lae'zel included. So how do we have our fun with Mizora guilt-free? Just kill your partner before you go to bed. Then enjoy a night of devilish delights, and in the morning, actually there is no morning. You just instantly appear outside of camp. So go back to revive your partner and they'll act like nothing happened. Even though those special camp scenes only happen with your one true love, all regular dialogue will consider you to be partnered with Shadowheart as well. And that includes Halsin's proposition to share you with your partners. But you gotta ask those partners first, and Lae'zel isn't down with that, even hypothetically. On the other hand, Shadowheart thinks it's a fine idea.
Was there anything else? Besides your increasingly complex love life?
You don't know the half of it, or I guess the third of it. But when you go report the news to Halsin, the dialogue gets very confused. There are so many errors with the flag checks here, I wouldn't know where to begin, but it only gets this weird when your real partner is Lae'zel. If it's someone else, like Gale, the choices look like this. But luckily for you, and unluckily for Gale, only one partner needs to agree to the arrangement to rope everyone in. So tell Halsin that Shadowheart's wide open and any other partner will automatically come along for the ride. And now that you're all in one big happy relationship, you can go for the PDA world record in the middle of the lower city.
Best keep your hands to yourself. You're being watched.
Fine, we'll go somewhere more appropriate, like Sharissa's Caress. If you try to get things going with the Drow twins, Shadowheart would normally be down with the idea, but only if you already spent the night with her on the beach. And since you can't do that, she's not interested. Okay, let's just try again and see if no, Lae'zel doesn't want to either. If you were partnered with Will, he would decline too, though Astarion or Gale will go for it in the right circumstances. But for now, just talk to the Drow a third time, and Halsin will jump at the chance to get involved. While we're here, did you know that if you start the intimate scene with the Drow twins while your character is immune to the effects of magical darkness, you get one of 3 unique narrator lines depending on where that blindness immunity comes from?
Though you have the power to see in the dark, in the face of lust, you can't help but close your eyes. The Lady Nym. You feel your devil's sight dull. Your patron really doesn't want to see this. The Lady Nym. You feel the vision granted to you by Shard dull. This is not the kind of darkness the lady cares for.
Once the grumpy old brain has been defeated by the power of love, you'll have the chance to end your adventuring life and settle down, with all of your partners. And there are many fun combinations depending on who you chose as your main squeeze. For example, if you picked Grand Duke Will, you'll wake up beside him in a grand bed and can marry him in a grand wedding. But before that ceremony begins, Will romantically takes you by the hand and leads you right into Shadowheart's bedroom. Though to fully appreciate how this whole sequence plays out, you really need to see it for yourself with no editing. Trust me. Anyway, God's favorite princess doesn't care that you're already engaged to Will, so she'll offer you a quiet life on the farm with her parents, which you can happily accept.
I'll keep a spot for you. It'll be just like old times.
Yeah, just like old times, when we were married to the Grand Duke of Baldur's Gate. But before you pack your bags for that trip to the countryside, Shadowheart will hand you off to Halsin. He wants to start a nature commune for orphans back in the formerly shadow-cursed lands, and it's not like you're going to make him do that without you. So just use those bags you were already packing to head out with Halsin right away.
You shall. But what about all that you'll miss out on?
Not much, just a grand wedding and life on the farm. Maybe we'll send a letter to Will and Shadowheart, if we get the chance. And when it's time for the epilogue, well, again, I really don't even need to edit this.
You and Shadowheart found your peace in a country farmstead with a pack of pets and a garden of night orchids.
It appears that your husband, Grand Duke Will Ravengard, showed up at Shadowheart's farmhouse in a carriage to escort you to the party. When you talk to Shadowheart, she'll happily recall the quiet life you spent together these last 6 months.
A cottage in the countryside. They may have been expecting something more. Well, more.
Hey, speak for yourself. I've been doing a lot more. She'll also go on about all the cute animals you adopted together out there. Which reminds me, you can also adopt the owlbear, but you'll have to decide which of your partners gets custody. Speaking of, give Shadowheart a smooch and then let's go check on Halsin. He's very concerned about the group of children you've been raising together, that, as he puts it,
There's a whole community out in Thaniel's realm that has never known a day without our presence.
So I guess all those kids live with you and Halsin and Shadowheart on her farm, which must be in the Shadow Uncursed lands. Those little tykes probably love having all those animals around to play with.
You could have done anything, gone with anyone. Yet you chose me.
Yeah, I could have gone with anyone, so I chose to go with everyone. Which means we need to give Halsin a quick kiss and then go find Will. He'll give you a heartfelt greeting and speak fondly of your wedding day, when Shadowheart was your maid of honor and Halsin was your best man, or best bear. And then Will nominates you to become a Duke of Baldur's Gate, which you can accept, and rule justly from your farmhouse, surrounded by animals and kids out in the Shadow-Blurst lands. And now it's finally time for poor Karlach to get some love. I had wanted to make her the star of the whole video, since she's the only origin character that can't join in on the fun as a companion. But sadly, Lae'zel simply will not date her in Act 1. She won't even bring up the idea until the Tiefling party, and even then you still can't take her up on the offer of spending the night together, even though Astarion has an entire unique version of his scene just for Karlach.
There may be an inferno in you, Karlach, but at the end of the day, you've been frigid for a decade. Isn't that right?
In fact, even if you never get Karlach's second upgrade to make her touchable, you can still do a full romance to the end of the game with any of the companions other than Lae'zel. Well, except Vampire Lord Astarion. In this case, I've chosen Gale as Karlach's partner, plus Shadowheart, of course. If Karlach tries to partner up with Halsin exclusively, he'll tell her that she needs to get her engine fixed before they can get any closer, and your romance night with him will wait until you've talked to Dammon. Though if you tell Halsin you want to be with both your partner and him, he'll say that you need to wait until your engine is fixed, but as soon as you go to sleep, Halsin will become fireproof and the love scene will happen anyway. Or maybe he just thinks that if it means getting a piece of Karlach, he can bear the pain. After beating the Netherbrain, Karlach won't have the same happy endings to look forward to as the others, but at least she can still spend one last night with each of her partners. First will be Shadowheart, who will offer to go to Avernus with you. But we'd never let her go to such an awful place, so tell her that all you want is to spend your last moments here with her. When you do, Shadowheart will somberly escort you out of the room and right into Gale's bed. He will also offer to go back to the Hells with you, but he deserves better than that too. So tell Gale that you just want to see the sky one last time, and he'll try to lead you outside but get lost and end up in Halsin's room. But Halsin won't offer to go anywhere with you, even to save your life, though at least he'll still walk you out of the room. But even though all of them offer to stay with her until the end, when Karlach finally reaches the dock, she'll be all alone. Well, except for Invisible Will.
Karlach, the very best of us. You were always the hero. My hero.
I did not edit that. Fortunately, Karlach still gets one last chance to choose life and go to Avernus by herself, battling the forces of Zariel without any of her partners, and then strut into the epilogue party as a strong, independent tiefling woman who don't need no man. Oh, never mind. I guess Gale showed up in Avernus with a carriage. Yeah, that joke's not going to work this time. But when you talk to Shadowheart, she'll act like you and her spent the last 6 months fighting Cambions in the Hells together.
You and me against all those Cambions, and I actually managed to land a hit with my sacred flame.
Though according to Gale, you've been in Waterdeep with him this whole time.
Even my own city feels new to me, now that I share it with you.
Maybe that giant flaming portal you walked out of a minute ago was just Gale's usual means of getting around these days. Since you never even got the chance to talk to Halsin about joining his new grove, he won't pretend that you've been hanging out with him. But at least you still get the chance to show him some love before the party's over. Thanks for watching, and extra thanks to my Patreon supporters for helping to keep food on the table. Okay, I mean, it's not a table, it's just this desk, but still, thank you.